So sometimes I lie awake at night and I think to myself, what am I going to do to get people to click on a video? And this is the experiment, I guess. Hello, everyone. This is Tetrafolium, and I'm here today to bring to you a video about Feraligatr in ADV, who is notorious for its very suspicious-looking back sprite, but which you probably haven't seen much before because you know, Feraligatr's not a Pokemon that gets a lot of play in ADV. It's also not a Pokemon that you can very easily catch and use in your in-game team. But that's okay because we're here. We're listening to some Sevi Islands, 4 and 5 Islands. Got that kind of GBA sound font for. Is it Newbark Town? Or is it. Yeah, I'm gonna say Newbark Town. If that's not correct, somebody correct me in the comments. But let's, no further delay, look at the viability rankings, and not surprisingly, Feraligatr is nowhere to be seen. It's outclassed by quite a lot of the water types that do get play in the OU tier, and even some of the UUBLs, and even fellow UUer Quagsire gets more play than Feraligatr does. Is that appropriate? I guess we'll have to find out. But before we go on, I say no delay, but we're going to delay for the comment question for the video. What is your in-game Johto team? For me, it's kind of just a go with the flow type of thing, but I really like the idea of like getting an Eevee and then breeding it, because it's not so hard to do so in Pokemon Crystal / HeartGold. And then like having multiple evolutions on the team. So I've done playthroughs where I've had like Jolteon and Vaporeon and Espeon all on the same team. And kind of played through the game like that. But what are some other cool Pokemon to use? I think for like a grass type, I mean, Bellsprout's not so bad. You can get Victory Bell pretty early. A lot of people bring like Ampharos. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of comments about Ampharos. And, you know, it's a cool Pokemon, but it's not usually like at the top of my list of Pokemon to get. I don't know. Heracross is cool if you can find it. Headbutting a tree. I don't recall how you get it in Crystal. Maybe also headbutting a tree, but yeah. Chinchou, cool Pokemon. I would like to use that one more on the in-game team, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of all the Pokemon that I can think of right now that are sick and cool and all the positive adjectives. Let's go on to talk about offensive water types. So, generally, when we're talking about offensive water types, or offensive waters, as I'll be abbreviating, in ADV, we're usually talking about like special attackers that are using water and ice coverage with Surf or Hydro Pump to rip through some defensively compromised structures, meaning either teams that don't have a very solid special wall, like, you know, Blissey or Snorlax, or teams that have lost their special wall. So here are a lineup of some of the more prominent offensive waters in the tier, and this is their special attack stats. Now, I mean, you might look at Swampert and say, well, that's not very high, but considering the ability Torrent, which we'll be talking about quite a lot in this video, that base 85 special attack is more than serviceable, especially when you're ripping off the water type moves. In particular, Endeavor Swampert with the Salac Berry, which is becoming very, very popular nowadays. It's, you know, it existed before. Don't get it twisted, but it's had a resurgence in popularity here. It's not very difficult to get down to Torrent range. In fact, that Swampert loves to live in Torrent range, and then its Hydro Pumps off of fully invested special attack are just phenomenal. Suicune, of course, is a very, very strong Pokemon. I'm sure if you've played the tier, you know about Suicune, but of course, with Calm Mind to boost up, it just gets even more powerful. Starmie and Milotic. Starmie is a little bit more commonly seen as an offensive water. It's got great coverage, including Thunderbolt, which not any of the rest of these Pokemon get. It can also use Psychic. It can also use Recover. But similarly, Milotic can use Recover, and its claim to fame is Hypnosis. It can kind of break through its own checks by putting them to sleep, or generate a lot of momentum for your offense team by putting something that switches into sleep and then switching out to something that appropriately handles that. And then Vaporeon is a Pokemon that is possibly due to move up. I know that's maybe not a super popular opinion, but I really like Vaporeon. It's my favorite UUBL to use. It may be... I don't think it's the best. I think Registeel's better, and then there's an argument, I think, between it and Raikou. Many people would come down on the Raikou side, but my hot take is maybe I come down on the Vaporeon side. But with 110 special attack, you hit a lot of OHKOs that some of these other Pokemon don't quite hit, like, for example, against Tyranitar, where, you know, some of these Pokemon can OHKO Tyranitar if it has 252 HP investment, but Vaporeon basically always gets there. Maybe Tyranitar can sometimes live, but it's very unlikely. So, yeah. And there are plenty of other ones, like Amistar, Gorbis, Clamperl, I guess, that also have really, really high special attack stats and fire off really strong surfs and hydro pumps, but these are probably like the 5 most common like offensive waters that come to mind when you say offensive water. So going on, let's talk about the counters to offensive waters. So offensive waters kind of struggle against special walls, as I kind of briefly mentioned before, and especially the ones that have super effective coverage. So here's not an exhaustive list, but we've got our blobs sitting on the outsides, Blissey and Snorlax. You could maybe even throw Regice and Registeel in there as well. In fact, Regice is really good into the water, so I probably should have thrown it on the screen there. But yeah, these two are looking to beat down the waters. Now, sometimes the waters can try and get through them, in particular Suicune versus Blissey, but oftentimes it's just delaying the inevitable, where Blissey is going to just kind of smoke all of the Suicunes that exist. That's not true. They can definitely PP stall a Blissey, and even the Blisseys that have Thunderbolt sometimes struggle versus Suicune. Snorlax, of course, really, really high HP, really high Spadef, lots of attack that can just bust through a lot of the waters, especially the ones that don't have Recover on hand. And then if you can't bust through them, then you're going to explode, and that is the death of pretty much every water type that ever existed. Except, like, I don't know, Jellicent, but that doesn't exist here, so forget about that guy. Celebi and Zapdos are probably the more, like, offensively oriented water counters. They're still pretty good special walls, especially if you invest in their Spadef. I think Spadef Zapdos is a very underrated set. Even without rest, it gets a lot of mileage. But Zapdos Thunderbolt is threatening to two-shot pretty much every water type, sometimes one-shot them, depending on your attack investment. And even Swampert, who is immune to Thunderbolt, is not immune to a really, really strong Hidden Power Grass, which is devastating for it. Celebi is likewise using grass coverage to beat down the waters, but it also has Leech Seed to kind of just abuse how passive they are against Celebi. And with Natural Cure, similarly to Blissey, even using Toxic or Hypnosis to try to force progress against the Celebi is not going to be quite good enough. Now, the two in the middle, while they have really strong physical options versus the waters, they have to be careful about Ice Beam, especially boosted Ice Beams. Those can do a lot of damage and make these not so good at countering the waters. But another counter to water types is, unsurprisingly, maybe, opposing water types. So, these Pokemon, I mean, we could have thrown some other Pokemon like Starmie in here as well, Quagsire, etc., but, like, these Pokemon are kind of devastating for an opposing water to face. Suicune, of course, has pressure and is going to steal all the PP away from your Hydro Pumps and your Surfs, and it's going to sit and Calm Mind up and eventually win a 1v1. The only water type that really handles Suicune very consistently, well, okay, there are some, like, opposing Suicune, depending on your set. If you can effectively PP stall, then you can win. Vaporeon is actually really good at beating Suicune in a one-on-one. With Water Absorb, it's not weak, or sorry, it's resistant to Ice Beam, and it has access to either Roar or Haze to eliminate Suicune stat changes. Lapras, who we talked about last video, which you should go check out, is even more indomitable versus Suicune because it can't be frozen and it is quad resistant to Ice Beam. The only Suicune set that really threatens Lapras is one that has Hidden Power Grass or Electric. But those Suicune sets completely fold to Blissey and are a little bit easier to deal with just in general because they're not as defense invested. They don't have rest. They don't have the longevity, right? So Lapras, very solid. Milotic, maybe not as solid into Suicune, but it's really solid into all the other water types because it's going to use Toxic, force them to switch, force them to rest, force them to run around, you know, and then you have 32 PP on Recover to just blank all progress that opposing waters make on you. Suicune is a little bit of an exception here because with pressure and rest, Milotic is the one who's forced to switch out most of the time, but it's still really good into all the other waters. Even Starmie with its super effective Thunderbolt is not always breaking through your Milotic. So, let's move on. Can we break the counters to our offensive waters? Well, typically the best way to do so is to allow your teammates to break through those counters. So here are some Pokemon that I think have generally good matchups into the water types. Maybe not so much switching in, but they have traits that allow them to make progress. So like Tyranitar, for example, yeah, maybe it doesn't live water type moves very consistently. It can actually live a lot of them if you have a lot of HP investment, like I kind of mentioned on a previous slide. But setting the sand is going to be really important for allowing other Pokemon to make progress versus waters. For example, Suicune is just outside of 3-hit KO range from a lot of neutral hits. If you can get the sand up, then Suicune is forced to rest loop, and if it gets crit by any of the moves, you're kind of boned as the Suicune user. Like, for example, let's say the sand is set and you've forced a Suicune to sleep and you've caught it on the sleep turn going to an offensive Swampert. Offensive Swampert usually does not have attack investment, so its Earthquake is going to be doing just about 30% to Suicune. But the issue is, if Suicune tries to Calm Mind or attack on the turn that it wakes up, then it's going to die to the 4th Earthquake that's clicked. So it has to rest again. Now you might say, okay, well that's not so bad, you just have to dodge 8 chances to crit. Well, offensive Swampert is also packing Focus Punch, which gives you another 16 chances to crit, and it's a very safe click into defensive Suicune, who cannot attack you or stop you from focus punching while it is asleep. So, yeah, I mean, it's a really, really solid form of counterplay without even having to stay in with your Tyranitar. You're allowing another Pokemon to have a chance there. Metagross, I mean, similarly, if the sand is up, Metagross can make a lot of progress, but it also has the big, powerful explosion button, which will, at the very least, force the water type to switch. And if not, well, it's just going to die. So that's quite good. Now, Metagross is not the most survivable against offensive waters, but it's usually tanky enough to take one Hydro Pump from whatever. So if you can get it in on revenge, it can be quite good in that sense. Gengar is really, really nice at using Taunt and Thunderbolt coverage to abuse the waters. If you can say, like, Taunt on my Milotic on the turn that it goes for Recover, and then you're Thunderbolting it down, that could be a way to get through Milotic. Although, be wary, because Gengar is pretty frail, and it's not going to be taking multiple Hydro Pumps / Surfs from very highly invested water types, so keep that in mind. You also have Explosion with Gengar, and that can be helpful for positioning a Pokemon that can't, like, effectively switch in or needs a little bit of extra damage, or you need Suicune to lose a sleep turn effectively in order to beat it. That's one of the things that's actually really nasty about Explosion, because it ends the turn. If a Pokemon's asleep, it doesn't get to burn a turn of sleep, so you kind of get, like, free damage. Well, not really free. You spend your Gengar to get damage on Suicune that it's not going to be able to get a sleep turn back from. And then I have Jirachi here, who has pretty powerful electric coverage in Thunder or Thunderbolt, and Calm Mind to kind of match the freak of all the other water types. Though I will say that Jirachi's a little bit not so good into Suicune all the time, because yeah, I mean, you have to hit Thunders, you have to crit your Thunderbolts, you have to not get crit by the Suicune. You're gonna end up in a really nasty situation. Of course, you could use some of the other previously discussed counters to the offensive waters to break through defensive waters as well. Zapdos and Celebi, hugely important at breaking through defensive water types for teams. Blissey can to some extent, so can Snorlax, and so can some of your own water types. So keep all of those in mind if you're trying to game plan around waters. But some waters have their own ways to break through counters, and we're going to enumerate some of them here. So these three water types get Thunderbolt. I guess technically so does Gyarados, but we'll discuss why Gyarados might not want to use Thunderbolt not too far in the future here. But yeah, with Thunderbolt, you're going to be doing a lot of damage to opposing waters, and in particular, if it's a water type that does not have access to reliable recovery, you're going to make that damage stick. And then Lantern I'll give special mention to, because it has the stab boost on Thunderbolt. It's really, really good at breaking through all the waters, because you'll be doing upwards of 60% or so to all of them with your nasty, nasty Thunderbolt. But speaking of that, some of these water types are cheating by having a secondary type that gives them super effective stab into the waters. Ludicolo is actually really, really nice at quad resist water moves. It has Leech Seed to force switches or to break last mon situations. And then you have that hit super effective stab, Hidden Power Grass, or Giga Drain to lean back on should you need it. So that's actually a very, very solid pick there for beating opposing waters. Then we also have boosting, and Gyarados is finally here. Look at that. Tetrafolium recognizes Gyarados. That's a Pokemon that he knows. And then Suicune, of course, is just a motherfucker Pokemon that can kind of just beat whatever it wants. But we'll talk about it. Suicune, well known for its CM sweeping potential. You should watch my video about it. But let's talk a little bit more about Gyarados, since we don't have a video on Gyarados yet. Gyarados is a rare, physically oriented water type. It uses Dragon Dance to bolster its offenses. And it can have the move Taunt to handle Toxic, T-Wave, and Roar from the defensive water types. So, like, for example, Milotic, it would love to Toxic the Gyarados, and then it can just sit in and recover forever. But Gyarados will Taunt, and then Milotic does not get to use Toxic. Gyarados is going to Dragon Dance. Milotic's best option, usually on its defensive set, is to just Surf, which does absolutely nothing, and then you can taunt it again and use it for as many Dragon Dance turns as you want. You're going to force them to switch. At worst, you're going to be +1 as they switch into something for your Gyarados. Now, that's actually not a great scenario for Gyarados because it's very easily walled by things like Skarmory, Zapdos. Sometimes it can be revenge killed by Aerodactyl, depending on what hidden power it picks. So, all that being said, it's not... Gyarados has some issues, but handling Milotic one-on-one is not one of them. Starmie, with its T-Wave, is a little bit tenuous to deal with. If Starmie switches into your Gyarados, for one, you have to have a Dragon Dance already to outspeed the Starmie in most cases. And for two, you're going to be clicking Taunt into what could be a Thunderbolt. So that's not the best case scenario, but if you manage to find a scenario where you know they have Death Me, you've got the Dragon Dance as they switch into Death Me, Taunt is going to stop you from losing to the Starmie, so that's quite good. And then Roar from things like Suicune or Swampert can be quite annoying. Toxic from Swampert can be annoying as well. You're gonna just blank all of that as well. So Gyarados, he's good, right? He's good. He's a great water type. In fact, he might be one of the best. Well, okay, he's got 60 base special attacks. So as far as being an offensive water goes, I feel like Gyarados kind of doesn't qualify that much. It doesn't really even get to use things like Hydro Pump or Surf for very much damage. I have seen mixed Gyarados before, and it can sometimes work, but its Hydro Pump is basically reserved for hitting things like Aerodactyl, which it's kind of sad that you need a move that strong off a stab, super effective, and you still need to invest in your special attack to even have a hope in hell to kill the Aerodactyl, which is not great. But you know, Gyarados does get some interesting other special attacks like Fire Blast, so and Thunder. So I guess a special Gyarados could be used, but that kind of just sounds like a bad Slowbro, which yeah, I don't know if you want that distinction. But I digress. You could use Hydro Pump on Gyarados. I just wouldn't advise it most of the time, because it's not a fantastic Pokemon just overall, let alone with Hydro Pump. All right, enough Gyarados slander. Let's talk about what if we want to use a mixed attacking water with a functional special attack stat. Well, we're finally getting into the featured Pokemon here, because there's really only one option that can do that, like a solid mixed attacking water type in ADV OU. I mean, the only one that comes to my mind is Feraligatr, who is really solid with a base 105 attack stat, 79 special attack. I don't think there's any water type that could really match that freak. Not that comes to my mind anyway. Oh, you mean Swampert? It has more attack and special attack than Feraligatr, and it has stab on a physical attacking move that is really, really strong. Okay, yeah, I mean, that's true, but I meant a mixed attacking water that has an attack boosting move, right? Like, I don't think that Swampert has that. Okay, well, this is kind of awkward. But there is a legitimate argument for why you might want to use Feraligatr over Swampert that doesn't have to do with HP Grass. It's this move right here, Swords Dance, and Feraligatr is the only water-type Pokemon in ADV that gets access to Swords Dance. Oh, well, okay, I think that's also a lie. There are 6 other Pokemon that are water type that get access to Swords Dance. But I'm going to make the argument here that perhaps Feraligatr might be the best of the water types that get Swords Dance. So, Swords Dance water types. This is a niche that is hyper specific and rarely necessary or wanted for a team. But you know, if you do want it, let's have a comparison of the Pokemon that get it. So let's look at how many of these Pokemon get a physical move that is not normal type or hidden power, because pretty much all of them have access to Double Edge, Return, Frustration. For the most part, they have access to Facade. So yeah, how many of them are fitting that criteria? Okay, everybody but Kingler, so maybe this is not looking so good for the Feraligatr argument. But let's examine what physical attacks these Pokemon get. Well, our water poison types, the only physical attack that they get that is not a normal type move or hidden power is Sludge Bomb. And Sludge Bomb, frankly, is not a very powerful move. I mean, yes, it's 90 base power. Yes, the stab is appreciated, but it hits literally nothing. Like, I mean, it hits grass types, okay? Ludicolo wouldn't want to take a Sludge Bomb. But it's got, there are a lot of resistances to poison. Ghost, poison itself, I guess not so common as types. But I believe one of Rock or Ground, I always forget which one. I want to say it's Rock resists poison, and then Steel is immune to it, and that's not a great sign. Now, I guess if you're going to be a poison type attacker, having a water secondary stab is not like that bad, because it gives you a neutral click into the Steel types, but let's not beat around the bush here. These Pokemon are not breaking through Steel types very well with even with Swords Dance, Sludge Bomb, Hydro Pump, or whatever. Ludicolo, it only gets access to fighting type moves other than, you know, normal / hidden power. Now that's not so bad though. Like a Focus Punch or a Brick Break can be quite useful in some contexts, but I will say that one of your best options to hit with a fighting type move in Tyranitar, it's not super necessary to do so since you have that water stab. You're going to be 2-hit KOing with water type moves without even needing the boost anyway. Though I will acknowledge that it is quite good to have boosted fighting type moves to click into Blissey or Snorlax. Though, I mean, how good is Ludicolo going to be at doing that in general? Probably not that good, to be honest. So, Swords Dance Ludicolo, that's probably going to be a draft-only set. I mean, this is all going to come back to be really ironic when we're discussing why we're using Feraligatr, but just stick with the conceit here, all right? So we have 3 Pokemon here that have a little bit more variety in their physical attacking options. So let's see what we get here. Okay, so Kabutops is rocking with Brick Break, Rock Slide, and Ancient Power. So it can do like a Hariyama LARP, I guess, with Brick Break, Rock Slide knockoff. But it has Swords Dance, which is, I guess, better than Bulk Up. So, yeah, it could be a decent Pokemon for doing such things. But I want to note that these 3 Pokemon with the yellow asterisk have a special attack stat less than 70. So that Hydro Pump is not going to be hitting very hard. You'd be just about as good using Gyarados with Hydro Pump. But I will say I would be remiss not to mention that Kabutops has a really cool synergy between Swords Dance, Sand Immunity, and Flail. So it can use an Endure set similar to Scizor, if you want to check out my really old Scizor video, and go down to 1 HP and fire off a 200 base power move in Flail. So it's probably one of the better physically attacking water types in general, but we're maybe trying to look for some mixed qualities. Maybe we do want Hydro Pump to do some type of damage here. I don't know. Here's Crawdaunt here, who is a Pokemon that many people would point to as being a victim of the physical special mechanics in Gen 3, and I think that's pretty valid. There's a 120 base attack stat, which is frankly really good. The problem is your only physical attacks are Sludge Bomb and Ancient Power, and normal type moves and Hidden Power. So you kind of get screwed on a lot of your best coverage. Crab Hammer and Crunch would be devastatingly powerful if they were going off of your higher physical attack. Now, that being said, Crawdaunt has a pretty respectable 90 base special attack, so it's not like it's completely ruined by having to use those moves as special attacks. But what kind of ruins it is its really slow base 55 speed. I think that even if it did have physical Crab Hammer and physical Crunch, it would probably be a little more on the niche side. It could be a good wall breaker, especially with like a choice band into like fatter teams, but it's going to be quite easily revenge killed, and it's going to have a hard time outspeeding a lot of the Pokemon in the tier. So even so, I mean, it's a cool Pokemon though. When Mr. Craw is calling, you pick up the phone. So maybe we'll have to see if Crawdaunt can do something in ADV OU. Doubtful, but maybe. But here's Feraligatr. So we spent all this time building this up, and this is what we get if we want to have a Swords Dancing Feraligatr. Okay, I mean, that's actually not that bad. You have your pick of Rock Slide or Ancient Power. You have Brick Break and Focus Punch, quite good for handling things like Blissey, for example, if you want a move for that. We have Earthquake, which is really, really good. None of these other Pokemon have Earthquake, and in fact, Feraligatr is one of only a handful of Pokemon that has access to Swords Dance and Earthquake. Off the top of my head, I know, like, Heracross does, though Heracross doesn't usually want to run Earthquake. It's usually fine to just run Mega Horn and a fighting move. That covers most of what you would hit with Earthquake anyway. And you also have Iron Tail, which I mean, I wouldn't recommend using Iron Tail, but it's there. You could use it. I didn't mention Dig as a move, or consider it as a move for some of these Pokemon, so you could argue, okay, some of them have Dig, but, like, no. Not in a tier where Zapdos is running around, you're not going to use Dig on a water type. So, yeah. Feraligatr setting itself apart here. So what are we going to do with the Feraligatr? Well, we could do something like one of these UU sets suggests, where you're running kind of a slow Gator with a lot of HP investment. You're going to use Swords Dance, Earthquake, coverage move, Hydro Pump. That could be an option. Or we could go for Sub Punch. That could be a way to do it. We don't have the 101 HP substitute, so we're going to have to call people switching their Pokemon out with our substitute. Oh, geez, sorry about that yawn. If we want to punish things like Registeel or Blissey, who are going to be having to use Seismic Toss to hit us. But it's kind of an interesting take on this sort of set here. The EVs are strange. 136 HP, 136 defense. And then attack and Spadef. That's kind of... Yeah, I don't know what that's for. Don't ask me, but kind of cool. But we're going to take this physical sweeper idea and we're going to adapt it for the OU metagame. So here's our Naughty Gator. So we have Earthquake, Rock Slide, Swords Dance, Hydro Pump. If you want to run this Gator on your own teams, some options for you. The Rock Slide slot could change. It could be Ice Beam. It could be Brick Break. It could be a number of it could be Ancient Power if you want to just like fish for some funny clips. In fact, that would be probably the best and funniest thing you could do with Feraligatr. It's a little bit customizable in that sense, but I like the combination of Swords Dance, Earthquake, and Hydro Pump. That hits a lot of things in this tier for a lot of damage. And yes, there's some overlap between Earthquake and Hydro Pump in hitting things like Tyranitar, for example. But there are contexts where you might want to click Hydro Pump instead of Earthquake and vice versa. So having that flexibility is really nice. Earthquake is going to be our bread and butter move, which we're going to be clicking almost all the time with our Feraligatr. We have a pretty likely OHKO on both Tyranitar and Metagross when we're at +2. Only the bold Jirachi sets would survive +2 Earthquake. Now, granted, like, you know, defensive Jirachi, if it's got a lot of defense investment but not a bold nature, then maybe it could survive. But for the most part, any Jirachi that's running enough defense to survive Feraligatr is probably running a bold nature. So keep that in mind. We're going to 2-hit KO Blissey with +2 Earthquake, which is really, really solid. Believe it or not, as much as this kind of goes against the agenda here, an Adamant or plus attack nature Swampert with enough investment can 2-shot Blissey with Earthquake unboosted, so that's kind of crazy. But, you know, for Feraligatr, we only need one turn to get that result. We're there, basically. Defensive Suicune is going to get 3-hit KO'd in Sand at +2, or it will get just 2-hit KO'd at +4. So, Feraligatr, its boosting is a way to beat the defensive water types there. Look at that. It's making some sense now. Rock Slide is really, really nice for Zapdos, and in fact, that's one of the reasons why I prefer Rock Slide to, say, like Ice Beam, which Ice Beam would be better in Demence, for sure. But being able to kill a Zapdos that is trying to revenge you is pretty nice. A 252 HP Zapdos, so like our Spadef Zaps, are pretty favored to die at +2. But another thing that's kind of nice is that there are only, I think, 50-50 to kill us with Thunderbolt, which is somewhat impressive considering we're a minus Spadef nature, but not ideal. I wouldn't necessarily fish for that if you could help it. But we also do really, really good against Salamence. If we're at +2, we would kill it. Although a lot of times maybe Salamence is switching in and making us only a +1 thanks to its nasty Intimidate ability. We'll leave it pretty low if it chooses to stay in and attack us. Though, if we're pretty healthy on our Feraligatr, there are a lot of times when we could just go for another Swords Dance, get the +3, and if you position yourself correctly, you could get knocked into that Salic Berry range, which is what makes this Feraligatr set kind of tick. Feraligatr is actually decently fast. One of the things that it has over Swampert. Swampert can't even achieve this speed stat, even with a plus speed nature. So we're going to leverage that to make ourselves a little bit more enticing than Swampert, although I would not say that that's true generally. Though Hydro Pump here is a really nice option for helping us versus a lot of the things that a Earthquake Rock Slide Pokemon maybe wouldn't help with. Maybe it's not the best to show Tyranitar and Aerodactyl as the examples that we're hitting with Hydro Pump, but just know that we will be doing pretty considerable damage to Skarmory. I think we 3-hit it, not necessarily if it goes for Protects, but you know, if we say we Hydro Pump it on the switch-in and we call it going for Protect by going for Swords Dance, well, now the opposing Skarmory is kind of inclined to roar us, which means that we could go for a Rock Slide or a Hydro Pump thereafter and, you know, fish for some extra damage on the Skarmory. So all of that being said, it's kind of a interesting combination of traits here. We are going to outspeed Tyranitar just from neutral, and we'll also outspeed Raikou and Starmie if we're at +1. We're going to hit 366 speed specifically at +1. And there are quite a few Pokemon that hang out in like the 360, 361, 365-ish range. Like Dugtrio, for example, will sometimes be 365 speed. And sometimes we'll be able to outspeed Dugtrio even. You could run a little bit more speed if you want to outspeed Dugtrio just outright, which is certainly possible. We don't even need to have a plus speed nature to achieve that with Feraligatr. But having a little bit of extra special attack to do some damage to Skarmory or to Pokemon that are hit for super effective by Hydro Pump, like, I don't know, like Regirock, for example, is nice to have as well. So keep that in mind. You could maybe steal from attack, but I wouldn't steal much because Feraligatr is missing out on a lot of Okos, unfortunately, as you can kind of see. Where a lot of these are saying likely and not guaranteed. Yeah, you don't want to make that any worse. If 105 is such a evil attack stat to be at, if you had 110, just 5 more base attack, we could have been even stronger and getting all of these kills. So it's unfortunate, but we have to play the cards that were dealt here. And what are we gonna shuffle into the deck for teammates for Swampert? Sorry, Feraligatr. Well, I've got 2 teams for you, actually. The only 2 Feraligatr teams that maybe have ever been built. That's probably not true. But we've got 2 squads here. One is a squad that I built for a friend of mine to play. And the other is another friend of mine who said they think they could maybe do it better. I'm pretty sure that both of these teams are kind of just like a team that had a different water type, and then Feraligatr was slotted in over top of them. So maybe there's not as much creativity to these as possibly there could be. But we've got lead Skarmory to get early spikes. We've got Claydol to spin for the Gator entry, and the other Mons they're kind of cool, I guess. Yeah, I'm not gonna analyze these teams too terribly deeply because, well, I mean, we're using Feraligatr. Like the goal is to have fun, not necessarily to win. But yeah, Gator, cool guy. Let's see what we can get out of him here. Ooh, all right, there we go. That was a smooth transition. And speaking of smooth transitions, FireRed, LeafGreen, cool soundtrack. But let's get into something a little bit more nostalgia baity for all of you who are even older than I am, you boomers here. Yeah, the Pokemon Gold and Silver Rocket Takeover in Goldenrod. This is a song that kind of reminds me of Feraligatr, because Feraligatr is usually my starter of choice when I play the Gen 2 games. I think it's even cooler in HeartGold, SoulSilver, because you can take advantage of its really high physical attack stat because of the physical special split. Things like Ice Fang are quite useful, so that's sick when you can make use of that. But this is my friend from my draft league that I used to run. Maybe we'll run it again, who knows. This is We Love Weatherman playing just on ladder against Revered Radish. I don't know. He's going to be playing the first team with that shiny Skarmory. He stays in versus the Jolteon because I told him if we're leading Skarmory, we should be clicking Spike. I don't know if I would necessarily advise that we do this against a Jolteon, but it ended up working out. We get Thunder Waved, but we get the Spike up, so it's not that big a deal. We can go to Claydol here, who is going to blank that Jolteon Thunderbolt. Jolteon baton passing to Skarmory, who is not a nice Pokemon to see. But Gengar is a fairly good switch into Skarmory. And Registeel is here. Okay, so we're actually really nice into Registeel if we have Taunt. Unfortunately, we don't. This is an offensive Gengar. So we have Explosion rather than Taunt. You could run Explosion and Taunt together. It's not illegal, per se, but I would recommend that you run at least one on pretty much any Gengar set. All 3 layers of spikes are going down versus the Registeel here, as we're going to go back to Gengar on a Seismic Toss. Probably just trying to preserve Skarmory HP. Pivot to Claydol on the Thunder Wave. It's actually... he's making some sick plays here. Earthquake down on the Registeel, who's going to Seismic Toss. If it had counter and it clicked it there, that could have been really, really nasty for us. And We Love Weatherman gets the spin as the Skarmory comes in. So Gengar is going to be here. Oh my gosh, that takes a lot from Drill Peck. Fire Punch coming down on the Skarmory. Going to trade off the Gengar for a lot of damage on the Skarmory. Now Gator is in. Look at that beautiful back sprite. SDs on the Registeel switch. That's going to die to Earthquake. Jolteon's here. Are we going to stay in? No, we're going to switch to Claydol. Take an HP Grass for our troubles. If we stayed in there, I think we proc the Salak and kill the Jolteon, which would have been hilarious, but I understand not wanting to risk the Thunderbolt click. The Gator's back in versus the Skarmory, who's doing 31%. Did we Swords Dance? No, we just pump and kill the Skarmory. Nice. Flygon is here. If we had Ice Beam, that would have been sick. But Torrent Boosted Hydro Pump would have gotten the 2-hit KO. Unfortunately, we don't get there. But look at this. Look at this. We're left on 26%. If we can get a little bit of chip on Feraligatr somehow, like, for example, if our opponent sets Sand, we could get into our Salak range. Oh my gosh, that Drill Peck did a lot. I mean, it's a crit, so it is what it is. Drill Pecks again, as Vistarmie just goes for a recover. Regice is in. That's going to really punish Vistarmie. So it can Rapid Spin, but it's going to die to Thunderbolt. Yep. And let's see what the last is. It's Tyranitar! So this is like the perfect game for Gator, isn't it? Just goes for Thunder Wave here. Trying to stop the Tyranitar from getting the second Dragon Dance. If it goes for it, it will get Thunder Waved and it will be outsped. So now we're going to go to Gator, who's going to get its Salak Berry procced, and it's going to be faster than the Tyranitar and Hydro. Torrent Boosted Hydro kills! And shoutouts to my friend here who coined the nickname for the Gator, GHTR. I don't know why TR, because the 8 is already has the t sound, so you don't really need the t. But I guess that makes it just like more explicit that it is in fact a gator, because it's got that characteristic TR at the end. He says it again. He doesn't say GG, he says gator. So that was a hilarious game. Really, really good showing for Feraligatr there. That torrent boosted pump coming in clutch, killing the Tyranitar. It would have been even more clutch if we also hit the Flygon with our torrent boost. We would have known for sure that it was choice banded, which it seemed like, I mean, based on the damage, it was probably pretty obvious. And the fact that it clicked body slam is kind of crazy, but ladder's gonna ladder. What are you gonna say about that? But shout out to my guy here. I think he was playing for all of 2 weeks, and he made it to 1400 with a Gator team. He's got another replay for us, playing against, well, a pretty familiar team. We're gonna drill peck, because I think I remember watching this, and I told my opponent, or my friend here, that my opponent definitely does not have Magneton, because I know the team based on the nickname. Shout outs to the motherfucker who made this team. You guys should know. T-Wave into the choice banded Metagross is really nice. Gator's going to come in trying to get some progress, or trying to make some progress versus that Metagross. But we catch the Charizard. We get a crit. It's 2 crits into the Starmie. That's insane. Did he put a book emote? That's insane. Oh god, I forgot this game, man. We're going back to the Gator on the Metagross, who's gonna Meteor Mash. Doesn't quite kill us. We could go for Earthquake and get something nice out of that. Instead, we're gonna Swords Dance. We've already revealed the Rock Slide, so that Gator does not want to stay in. If we caught the Medicham switch, imagine. Unfortunately, Gator's gonna go down there. Trying to stop a substitute, most likely. And similarly, this Skarmory is playing to stop the substitute. Did we spike? No. If we spiked there, we would have been owning them. Claydol is going to blank this Jolteon, but instead we're going to see a switch to Medicham, who probably has Shadow Ball. But we're going to take it on the chin, just to put this thing low enough that it cannot sub any longer. Switch to Skarmory to take the Shadow Ball pretty well. Well, critical hit's going to make it not so well. We Drill Peck there. I think probably could have spiked. Oh well. Going for Hidden Power Ice, I believe. And gonna BP to... Really, is Charizard the best thing we have for Regice? We can Thunderbolt. We get the Para there. Oh my gosh, it's just devastating. Ice Beam into the Jolteon. That's really, really low now, and our opponent's going to forfeit. We just knew their team too well there, I guess. So, yes, I did a little bit of ghosting for my buddy, but I don't believe on that previous game that I was in attendance for that, but he hit the nasty on that last guy. Like, I would go back to it if I didn't close the tab, but geez. And there you go. Gator beating Zets HO. So there you go. The Gator didn't get as much value out of that as I was kind of hoping to see, but it did a pretty solid job. We were one more prediction away from the Gator kind of blowing the game wide open. If we killed the Medicham with Earthquake, like, it was super duper over. But I digress. That was a fun little game there. Let's go on to see what our other buddy has here. And what a name. I guess the ball's in Zet's court, whether he's gonna respond to that. But I do know who this person is. Zet's knows who this person is, but I don't think he knows, like, oh, he knows who the person is, not who owns the account, though. You know what I mean? So let's see what they've got. Lead Skarmory versus a Starmie. We're gonna switch turn 1 against the Starmie, actually. Interesting. As Celebi is gonna come in and Giga Drain on a switch to opposing Skarmory. And Hidden Power Fire critical hit. That's really, really nice. What elo is this? 1705? Holy. Hidden Power Fire onto Tyranitar. Gonna switch back to Skarmory on a Hidden Power Bug. That's pretty good. Can probably just set the spike down here. I'm wondering if, with Lead Starmie, if you even have Spin, though. Sometimes they drop it. And Thunder coming down, just gonna smoke the whole Skarmory. That's really, really sick. We're going to play with 2 spikes here. I don't know if this team... I don't think this team has a spinner, if I'm remembering correctly. Going to Toxic the BKC Tar. He's going to Focus Punch. Go for second spike. Yes, that is what they do there. Okay, sick. We do have a Claydol. Okay, yes. We do have a spinner. What am I saying? I remember saying Claydol was a common feature between both teams. Oh my god, Psychic catches the switch to the Gengar. This is looking like Jolt Spikes for sure. So last mon probably Metagross. Hidden Power Grass coming down. Claydol's going to burn another turn of sleep here. Are we going to switch the Claydol? Yes, we are. Into Skarmory, who's going to get critically hit. Will it live? I'm going to guess Fire Punch, right? Because, yeah, okay. And Dropek comes down, kills the Gengar. So no more spin blocker. If this Claydol could ever wake up, it's spinning. Skarmory is going to stay in, take that Hidden Power and get a spike up, which is really, really nasty. And now switches into Claydol. I don't know, maybe, probably you want to just sack the Skarmory at that stage. But I guess you're never punished because you're just going to wake up and get the Rapid Spin anyway. And yeah, now sack the Skarmory. HP Ice doing nothing to Celebi as it's just going to Giga Drain, get some HP back. We're just going to take out the Jolteon here. Yeah, that makes sense. Do you have a Recover on the Celebi? Yes, you do. Okay. So, this is going to be a nasty one here. I wonder why we were going to sack the whole Jolteon here. I guess maybe the thought is, like, between Claydol and Celebi, the Jolteon's not doing anything, so it's better to just, like, die to Celebi. And, get some value in that way? I don't know. We're just clicking Recover here. Until this thing runs out of Hidden Powers, I guess. Alright, I mean... Okay, so we get Roared into the Claydol. We're going to switch to back to Celebi? Yes. Alright, we're back into the loop here. I feel like, let's play some new music here. Oh my gosh, that crit almost killed, but we're just steadfastly clicking Recover as we've got some new Team Rocket music for us. Roared into the Gator! It's been revealed. Gonna have to go Claydol on HP Ice, which is gonna kill off the doll, and we're gonna get Dugtrio in. Okay, I see. If the last mon's Metagross, then Dugtrio's just going to win the game. Now, it'd be kind of an unfortunate replay to submit for, like, Gator doing stuff. Oh, but we're switching to Jirachi on Earthquake, of course. Throwing up the Wish. Dies. All right, we're getting the Gator in. Oh, we're getting the Gator in. This is an SD, isn't it? Yep. Gator's getting rock slided, but it's going to get all of its HP back, basically. SDs again. Rock slide puts us at 34%, chip down to 28. Oh my gosh, it's going to happen. The Gator kills the Tyranitar. Here comes Starmie. As Gator gets his Salic. +4 Earthquake going to kill. Here comes Metagross, just as I predicted. And it's over. What a Gator game. The 1600 with the Gator. All right, mogging our previous friend from our draft league. That's pretty funny. But they have one more replay for us against Eric Nomad, 1499 gamer. All right, how far are we up on this side? 1600. Another lead Metacham. Instead, we're going to spike, though. No nickname, so it might not be Zets HO. We're going to Drill Peck into the Metacham, I see. Okay, and then we're sacking the Skarmory, just completely off here. To get the Dug Trap, kill the Metacham. All right. Salamence is here. Going to Claydol, who's going to meet a Fortress. Okay, not looking so good for us anymore. Fortress is really, really good into these Skarm Doll teams. Generally speaking, I should say. Not all of them, but Thunder coming down. Whomper going to blank that. Here comes Tyranitar. And we're going to go straight to Gator, who's going to take a crunch for 49%. Yikes. Gonna Hydro Pump. Get a little bit of damage on the Salamence. Probably scouts out the Salamence set as well. Ice Beam would have been a fire click if we had it, but we don't. How do we break through Fortress with this team? Just gonna call mine with Jirachi, I guess. Here comes Blissey. Who's going? Oh, this is a sub CM Rachi, right? Oh, maybe it isn't. Okay. That critical hit from the Thunder is going to be really nice. All right, just fishing for a para here. If we get a full para, that could maybe break through. No dice. Gonna CM again after the para has been achieved. But how's Jirachi winning this? Oh, floats a Wish. Okay, I see. Psychic doing 68%. Also, shoutouts to Psychic Thunder Jirachi. That is super sick. But you don't have an Ice Punch for the elements. Maybe it doesn't matter. All right, Thunder coming down for 66%. Full para. Misses a Thunder. Another full para. And Thunder gonna kill that Fortress. Blissey's here. Gonna Calm Mind again with the Jirachi. Is Jirachi just gonna win this one on its own? It's gonna get all the way up to +4. I mean, this. It seems like this is okay. This is Wish with Ice Beam last, so this Blissey literally cannot beat a Wish CM Jirachi on its own. And then Psychic is really devastating because you can get the Spadef drops, force the Blissey to switch, and then it's kind of over. I mean, frankly, you have you have enough wishes to kind of just get through all the seismic tosses as it is, so. Thunder gets the para. Jeez, this is Okay, Psychic just kills. That stab boost is no joke. Oh, we get Earthquake critical hit on the Jirachi. Eric Nomad saying deserved. Mary Musette saying kiss me. What the hell? All right, here comes the Gator, who's going to get put down Sand Range. Going to have its Salak and get some big damage off on the Salamence. Goes for Rock Slide as they switch to Tyranitar. Another Torrent boosted Pump is just going to own. Okay, never mind. We just miss. That would have killed the Tyranitar probably outright. How healthy is the Claydol? Okay, probably healthy enough for the Salamence. We'll have to see. If this is a DD Mence, this can get dangerous. Which it quite likely is. We're going to go to Celebi, though, on a DD. Does the Celebi have the tools to beat this? Oh, we Dug Sack and then get the Claydol in. Okay, that's really smart. And then, yeah, you were playing for a crit and you lost. Mary Musette, you're so fucking funny. What the hell? Well, that's been the Gator video. Gator, it didn't do so much in this last game, but it did force that Tyranitar to switch. Puts a little bit of pressure on the Mence, and if it didn't get unlucky and miss that pump, it maybe could have it would have killed the Tyranitar probably, and then left that Mence in a dire situation. It would have died to Sand, setting up for the Claydol to come in and boom anyway, so that would have been a pretty clean line to victory, I think, if I remember the sequence quite rightly. But I'll pass the team that I passed to my buddy We Love Weatherman. I'll pass the team that Mary Musette's passed to me. And that will be down in the description if you want to play around with Gator. And if you want to make some other Gator teams, you want to try out different coverage, you want to try to slot this Pokemon in on other sort of squads, I encourage you to do so, and please let me know how it goes. But that's been the Gator video. I hope there was not too much Gator booty in this for you to not want to watch it, but that is, I mean, come on, man. They made the sprite look like that. I had to show it off, right? Well, we'll see you all for the next video.